And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me for the Step Into Your Own Business session for the Summer Engagement Series at WashU. We are excited to welcome all of our incoming students to WashU. I'm Jessica Weldon, the Assistant Director of Programs for the Scandalaire Center for Interdisciplinary Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Our center provides programs and resources for students who want to develop an entrepreneurial mindset, explore entrepreneurship, or launch something new. Today we'll be talking about the Student Entrepreneurial Program specifically and how incoming students can get involved with the program. Joining me on the call today are current Bear Spikes owner Jess Zhang, recent alum of Berry Sweet Shop Victoria Radke, and STEP Advisory Board members, Assistant Dean in the McKelvey School of Engineering Chris Ramsey, and Associate Director in Campus Life Beth Doors. So thank you all for being on this call with me today. There we go. STEP is a 20-year-old program that allows students to own and operate their own business on campus. All of our businesses serve the WashU community, and right now we have 11 different businesses ranging from bike rental and repair to a candy store to a brand new gift shop and delivery service. STEP businesses are independently owned and operated by students and guided by an advisory board of faculty and staff from across the university who can help provide best practices and connections to campus partners and resources. Students can be creative in the businesses that are in the program, but we do have a few agreements that must be considered in operating a business on campus. We don't allow our businesses to compete with our exclusive vendors on campus, like dining services or the bookstore. But often, if a business can differentiate themselves enough, we can create a space for them, like the pay-by-weight candy store or the gift shop that will feature gifts made by our students and alumni. Competition among STEP businesses is allowed, but we do not allow STEP businesses to market outside of campus. We keep everything, they have access to market on campus. Owners must go through an annual review and approval process to be able to continue operating. Students submit an annual report and present to the advisory board to maintain their status in the program. There are two ways for students to get involved with STEP. You can either buy into an existing business or start something new. For a perspective on being a current owner, I'm going to turn it over to Jess Zhang to talk about her experience owning Bear Spikes. Jess?
Thanks, Jessica. So yeah, my name is Jess Zhang, and I'm a rising senior studying biomedical engineering on the pre-med track. So I joined Bear Spikes in my first year because I wanted a unique hands-on experience for business. I've learned a lot of valuable skills interacting with both my teammates and with customers, and I've grown both personally and professionally throughout my time as a business owner. I've recognized what it truly meant to be independent when you take responsibility for your own decisions, because one of the differences between being a STEP owner versus any other extracurricular is that you make your own choices, and yes, there are stakes involved, but you take responsibility for them and you grow a lot through that. On the way, I also picked up some technical skills like website design and taxes and legal filings. I know those are kind of really scattered, but that's the beauty of being a co-owner, is that you just work it out with your fellow co-owners to see who wants to take what task they're interested in. And also, so it was a little intimidating at first when we first joined, because the way our transition was that the previous owners graduated and all of us were the same year, so we were all new. But this time we try to stagger the ownership so that that we have people from each year, including we're looking for people in the incoming year. And so yeah, that's in order to facilitate a smooth guided transition. And now I'll pass it back to Jessica.
Thanks, Jess. For anyone wanting to start a new business, the process is fairly straightforward, but can take some time to fully form a new venture concept and create a business plan. Anyone with new STEP business ideas can reach out to me directly, and talk through their concept and if it fits into our model, and then conduct market research to see if it is something our community would support. If it is something that there is demand for in our community, then students can write a business plan and a pitch deck that includes their budget, sources of financing, marketing plan, and unique value proposition. This pitch deck is presented to the advisory board, and if approved, then the business can be registered and launched. For students seeking financial assistance to participate, there is a loan fund that can provide up to $10,000, whether you're starting something new or buying into an existing business. We do recognize that these businesses are completely owned and operated by the students. StEP exists to provide some general guardrails, but really we let the students operate the business in the way that they see fit. As Jess said, it's very hands-on and real world. So there's lots of ways to create a new business, and we're always looking for new businesses. We do have 8 storefronts on the South 40, which is where the majority of the undergrad students live. But we also accept businesses that don't require a storefront, since we have a limited amount of storefront space. So always open to new ideas, and our advisory board loves hearing new ideas. The other way to get involved is if a student wants to buy into an existing business. As students get ready to graduate, many choose to sell their shares. You can also opt to take the business out of StEP and onto a wider market as you graduate, or you can use the 2 to 4 years that you are a StEP owner as a pilot opportunity and close the business at the end if it doesn't go the way you expect, which is completely fine. We've had businesses do all of the above, which is always exciting to be able to have a safe place to operate and test out new business ideas. To be able to buy into an existing business, students must attend a Buying a Business workshop, which we hold at least once a semester. We are moving towards having an asynchronous training video available. The pandemic has obviously changed how we operate and how we provide our workshops, so we're working on some new methods for this upcoming semester. And once you've been through the workshop, you are able to talk with sellers in detail about their business, review their prospectus, and submit offers. Sellers are able to negotiate with buyers, but only one at a time. We do not allow for a bidding war. Sellers should select their preferred buyer or group of buyers and work with them to come to an agreement. Sellers generally have their own timeline, but all sales must be concluded by April 1st of the spring semester to facilitate, a successful ownership transition. For this fall, sales can take place anytime after October 8th, which is after our workshop, and must be concluded by the last day of classes on December 18th. Right now, we actually have 2 businesses that are entirely up for sale and another with a 25% share of the business for sale. For their perspective as a recent alum, I'm going to turn it over to Victoria Radke, who is selling her share of Berry Sweet Shop. Victoria?
Thanks, Jessica. Hi guys, I'm Victoria. Like Jessica just said, I graduated in the spring. I was the president of StEP for the last few years and also a co-owner of the Berry Sweet Shop, which has been brought up a couple times throughout this talk. So, I mean, all in all, as I'm sure you've already heard throughout all this, StEP is an incredible program. You get hands-on experience, real-world opportunities that I think a lot of people at our age never really have the opportunity to have that facilitated by a university. So my experience with the program has been entirely positive. The support that the StEP board gives us is really unprecedented. And like has been mentioned, there are several opportunities to buy in at this moment. So a lot of stores are selling throughout the fall, including my own. So the Berry Sweet Shop has a 25% share for sale immediately. So if you are at all interested in kind of acting on any of these things that I've been talking about in this conversation, then please make sure to reach out to any of the businesses, including my own. Like I said, since I was the president, I can also connect you with any of the business owners for any other business apart from my own, if that's what you'd like to do. It really is something where, you know, you get to apply these things that you learn in the classroom in like an incredible hands-on kind of way. You work with professionals, you work with your lawyer, you work with your accountant, all these moving parts that like get to keep a business together and move it forward. You get to be an entrepreneur. You work with various leadership roles within the university. I myself have had sit-down conversations with the head of dining services, Bon Appetit, dean of students, lots of people high up, and they start to see you as a peer rather than as a student. And I think it's an incredibly empowering experience. So all in all, not just my business, any of them, I would highly recommend jumping into this opportunity if you can. But for the Berry Sweet Shop in particular, if you're at all interested, I'm posting a brochure for the opportunity that I have for selling my 25% share in the chat. So feel free to look at that, look at the document, and reach out to me if you do have any questions whatsoever. It outlines our sale process a little bit more in detail, but generally follows this guideline that Jessica has on the slide that you're looking at right now as well. Thanks, Jessica.
Great, thank you, Victoria. And then in addition to Victoria's share, Off the Row, a t-shirt business, and U Shuttle, a transportation business, are up for sale by recently graduated alumni. Usually sales are concluded before the end of a semester, but our campus shutdown in March pushed our usual timeline out to this fall. So it is a little bit of a unique opportunity. That's why we are offering a buying a business workshop so early in October, which is really only a couple of weeks after the semester starts. We usually do them a lot later because we want especially incoming students to have a chance to adjust to campus and not immediately jump into, buying a business. That's a really big decision, and we understand that. But obviously, the current pandemic has shifted everybody's general processes. So we're trying to be flexible and help the people who graduated and they want to see their businesses continue. So we're hoping to find them folks who are interested in getting involved in STEP. So if anybody's interested in U Shuttle or Off the Row, you can reach out to me directly. And Victoria, as she said, put her information in the chat. So you can reach out to Victoria directly if you've got questions about the Berry Sweet Shop. And we do, want people to go through a good transition period. Victoria's business is in a great position because they have 3 other owners who are current undergrads and can help facilitate that transition. As Jess noted earlier, it can be difficult when you're all in the same class. It's not impossible, but staggered ownership can be really beneficial, especially when you get into situations like this. And it really helps to have a transition period. So you can really learn the business, figure out the operations, figure out the contacts, and get up to speed so that when it's fully your responsibility, it's smooth sailing.
Exactly.
Hopefully, as you all can see, there are many benefits that come from being a STEP owner. It's a great opportunity to apply skills and knowledge from the classroom to real life. Additionally, the program provides educational opportunities through workshops. Anything that the Scandalaris Center does is open to all of our STEP students, and sometimes we provide STEP-specific training. And occasionally we even have conference attendance opportunities, when there's not a pandemic and I can send students to travel around the country. We also offer connection to campus leaders. As Victoria mentioned, our advisory board is comprised of some really awesome people, and they work tirelessly to support our STEP students and help them do things that wouldn't be possible without the support of our campus leadership. They also have access to marketing opportunities that outside businesses don't get. We don't allow a lot of businesses to come on and market freely to our students, but STEP owners have the ability to use their social media channels that they're a part of, as well as other flyering and marketing opportunities across campus, and that can help support their operations. They get out a campus mailbox for business operations and leadership opportunities through our executive board, as Victoria mentioned. Victoria, can I actually bounce it back over to you to talk a little bit about the executive board and what we've done with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, so the executive board has evolved a lot throughout my 4 years at WashU, at least I would say. Before that, I can't speak to that, but while I've been a part of it and also been leading it for part of that time, we have prioritized making the board more of a facilitator between the STEP owners themselves and the board. So the board is an incredible resource, but because they are all working professionals within and throughout the university, they're all incredibly busy, of course. And so we wanted to make sure that this advisory board was more accessible to all of our students, so that if a business owner or a business had a concern, that they could bring it to us and we could advance it to the appropriate person. So I think the first big thing that the board has taken on as a role role in recent years, and that has really, blossomed into a very, I would think, successful kind of relationship has been to be this liaison between the student owners and the board. And it's resulted in what I would think is a much more fluid relationship where students feel like they have access to these quote unquote higher ups in the university, where they can get this firsthand experience and advice from them without it being such a removed role or anything in that manner. In other terms, we also have been working to make sure that this business and these businesses and the program as a whole has had a lot more exposure throughout campus. So in terms of working with the admissions office to make sure that there's a lot of exposure to incoming students, that everyone knows, one of the big attracting factors about WashU is the fact that you are able to have a brick and mortar presence, that you can be a business owner at the age 18, 19, 20, 21, that the school doesn't own, you just operate, but you are yourself an owner and an operator, that you have a stake and you're having an impact and you're developing all these ideas and these programs. So kind of pushing that and making sure that the community is really aware of these businesses and the fact that, you see them on the South 40 and you see what they do, but people don't always know that they're actually student owned and operated. So making that more clear and transparent has been something we've worked on. And then lastly, I would say is just facilitating a greater community within the STEP owners themselves. So a big thing always has been, we've had some businesses that are newer, like Jessica mentioned, where a student will come up with an idea. One of my good friends actually in STEP, Max Harris, he founded a business our freshman year, so 4 years ago now. And he was a solo individual new business owner. And so getting someone like that integrated into the community in a sense where they can learn from businesses that have been established for years and years, like for instance, U Trucking, one of our oldest businesses, and say, hey, Max, and we know you're a new business owner. These are marketing techniques that have worked for us, or this is an accountant that's been really great for us, passing on the knowledge, creating this community of shared knowledge and just, sharing all of that to make sure that all the businesses benefit in a way has been something that we've really worked on, so that there's no, like Jessica mentioned, there's no intra-business competition. You're all hitting different niches of the market within the community to make sure that it's a collaborative, upbuilding program in that sense. So I think all in all, this STEP board the student board at least, has really evolved into being something that, I've been very, very proud to have been a part of, and something that I think the student owners also respect, and something that where they're like, we entrust these student owner leaders in a sense to kind of help us and guide us and bring us all together. So I think the unity of the program has really evolved a lot throughout the years.
Perfect. Thank you, Victoria. That's great insight. And as Victoria said, the opportunity to network with not only the other owners, but also our advisory board is an important part of STEP. So I also want Chris Ramsey, our assistant dean from the engineering school, to share his perspective about how you've seen students develop through the STEP business ownership. Chris?
You bet, Jessica. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Washington University. Just thank you for being here to learn about this tremendous opportunity. Jessica said, I'm Chris Ramsey. I'm in McKelvey Engineering. I serve as an academic advisor and assistant dean, and just finishing my second year on the STEP Advisory Board. So the STEP Advisory Board is a group of stakeholders, campus leaders throughout all of campus, and that's what's really special and such a great benefit potentially to students, is that it brings together all these different parts of campus directly connected to the students and to their businesses. And I think that's been mentioned already, but just that connection, that advising, and just some really good relationships that can come out of that. And I would just add that Scandalaris as a whole, and especially the STEP program, for all of you that are joining us this next month at WashU, Washington University has tremendous, of course, faculty and research and your majors and all the academic side and all these other just people that are going to be such a valuable resource for you. But actually coming to WashU, one of the biggest resources or benefits are the other students that you're going to be around. And STEP is a perfect example. And you've heard from Jess and Victoria, but as you collaborate on these businesses, both within your business, but other STEP owners, there's just this huge synergy that happens. And it's just, on the advisory side of the board, getting to observe that is really, really exciting. So you're gonna, again, you're gonna have great faculty and classes at WashU, no doubt. But I think sometimes being around just the other WashU students and those connections that happen there is some of the most valuable experiences for our university. And that absolutely happens through this program.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I work with a lot of programs through the Scandalaire Center, and STEP is definitely one of my favorites. And it's because of the bright, driven students who own the businesses and who have contributed at such a high level, like Victoria and Jess. I've been so proud of the work that they've done. Victoria spent a lot of time with Berry Sweet Shop getting something through Dining Services and partnering with them and getting that done successfully in her final semester. Jess and Bears Bikes managed to create an apprentice program, which has been super great, and that's helping them develop their staggered ownership, as well as developing vendor relationships with bike shops in the area to help with their services. So those are just some of the real world experiences that our students have. Also, the advisory board that I get to work with is by far my favorite group of people, and we just have a lot of fun administering this program. So as we sort of wrap up the slideshow piece, I really appreciate Chris and Jess and Victoria sharing your experience with STEP with all of our incoming students and families. For those of you who have the entrepreneurial spirit, we hope that you will engage with the Scandalaire Center throughout your time at WashU, whether you are on campus or studying remotely. And if you have ideas that don't necessarily fit into the STEP model, the Scandalaire Center can help you find the right path to realizing those ideas. Coming up, we have an idea bounce on August 18th as part of the summer engagement series, which is an opportunity for anyone with an idea to pitch it, receive feedback, and start making connections to further that idea. We also have an Inventing Made Easy webinar on August 21st that is open to everyone. If anyone has questions at this time, I'm happy to answer them. Please put them in the chat, and I'll use whatever time we have left to answer those.
One other thing I do want to add while we're waiting for questions, if that's okay, Jessica, is obviously people, just something I want to say as like having graduated now and like seeing the impact that what you learn through this program kind of has on the way you go through life. I was pre-med all of college, and this being a part of this program and owning the Berry Sweet Shop was like just a side interest where I was like, I've always wanted to do this. Now's the time because I'm planning to be a doctor. And, my experiences with the store itself completely turned around kind of my career trajectory. And now I'm in finance. So my upcoming job's in finance, and it all kind of had to do with the community and everything that you build there. But obviously, when people pick what they want to dedicate amounts of time to at WashU or in college in general, you think about, where will I get the most valuable experiences? What obviously can I put on my resume, and what can I, talk about to future employers in terms of like, these are the actionable items and things I learned from these activities that I took part in college. And being a part of STEP is not a small commitment. I don't think anybody would suggest that. If you're a business owner, this is a full-time commitment. And of course you can do other things as well, but that's going to be one of your main priorities on campus. But I really do want to emphasize that with that, you have a ridiculous amount of experiences to pull from at the end of your 4-year tenure with this business. And I mean, I can speak from my own experience, work like interviewing this whole, all of my senior year for various positions for full-time jobs. And almost every single employer I spoke to, when they looked at my resume, the first thing, you owned a business? You're 21 years old, tell me about it. Like, tell me about a time you failed. And you will have a plethora of failures, as any business does. And then you will have 10 stories to back up how you fixed it and how you overcame those hurdles and all those kinds of things. So if time commitment or anything like that is an intimidation to you as an incoming freshman who wants to, put your eggs in a bunch of baskets, because that was also my approach coming in. Like, I want to put a little bit in everything and see what I like. I understand how that might be a little bit daunting. I just want to reassure everyone that while it is, a lot of eggs in one basket, so to say, what this there's a lot of metaphors. What this basket sort of brings you is like anything you could get really across the board from all these various other experiences you might otherwise be taking part in terms of what you can share with people in your life and your professional career, looking forward, things like that. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Jess, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just going off of what Victoria said with a lot of eggs in one basket. I do agree, and it varies for each business. But I was still able to find that I had a lot of time for a lot of other different things. Like I was able to join multiple cultural clubs and also participate in Greek life and so many other things that I was able to do and still do research too. So there's still plenty of time even if you become an owner.
Absolutely, yeah.
Any questions from any of our new folks? You can either unmute yourself or put them in the chat. Yes, I'll answer the loan process, and then I'll turn it over to Victoria and Jess to talk about a time that they failed and how they recovered. So the loan process, that's a great question, Chris, thank you. Opportunity to apply for a loan, it's a pretty simple process. If you're interested in getting a loan for either buying in or starting something new, it's a quick form and a check with Student Financial Services just to understand a baseline of your financial need. We don't dig into it, it's just a very high level understanding of what a student's financial need might be, and then a judicial check just to make sure that you're in good standing with the university. And as long as those two things clear, and we have the money in the loan fund, then most everybody gets approved for a loan. I'm going to answer a real quick one on GPA. There's not a hard and fast GPA requirement, but we do adhere to student conduct issues. So if anything is happening within the businesses that isn't up to our ethical business standards, they can be referred to student conduct. So far I haven't had to do that. I hope never to have to do that. So yeah, no hard and fast GPA, but I also don't want students suffering their GPA in service to STEP either. So as Victoria and Jess said, you know, it's a balancing act, but students are usually able to do that pretty easily. I'm going to turn it over to Jess real quick and have her give us a time when she failed at something and how she recovered.
Okay, great. So I think one time that we failed, well, yes, my business was when we first transitioned in. So the previous owners already graduated and we were in our sophomore year. And in the beginning of the year is when we do most of the work to get rentals to students. And so we didn't have a exact operations. They gave us all these spreadsheets and Excel sheets, but they didn't really explain what each thing meant. And so we had to start everything, all the operations from the beginning. And in the beginning, some of us were a lot more set on growth, whereas some other people were more set on founding the business, because there's so many things you need to do to be a legal business, like filing as a business entity or having registrations for and being in like good standing with the state. And so while I realized that I should have spoken up a little more to be more concerned about like the actual operations on the logistics of how we're going to get all these bikes fixed and to the students versus marketing and like advertising. And so I think that was a time when we realized, like all four of the owners realized that we needed to prepare better. And so I think it's more of a lesson learned, and we've taken that into account every time we have to plan for things now. So I think it's just learning from the past and making sure that that doesn't happen again. And it didn't happen the next year, and this year we're planning so that it does not happen again.
Great. Victoria, how about your experience?
Yeah, definitely. I think that for my business and for myself personally, the biggest initial failure that we had to overcome was kind of a limitation in what our mission statement kind of dictated we operate as and how we can expand. You know, a part of being a small business owner is not just maintaining and operating, but also like growing, expanding, being an entrepreneur after that initial startup phase has concluded and continuing to grow the business. And so for us, we had hit a little bit of a plateau, I would say, my freshman year when I first joined. And it was a lot of brainstorming. How can we get out of this stagnant sales path that we had been going down, where we didn't have a lot of room in terms of going up and out? So one of our biggest target areas was, well, how can we expand out of our storefront? You know, we were limited to this capacity in terms of where we were physically operating on the South 40, where all the freshmen live, but we lost a lot of really loyal customers when they moved away, just because the South 40 is, you know, on one side of campus. If you become a junior or senior, or even sometimes a sophomore, and you move to the village or even off campus or the lofts or elsewhere, just in terms of accessibility, you're not going to return to the store as often. And so I would say for a good 2 years, my number one goal in Barry's Sweet Shop was pioneering this partnership with dining services and talking to quite genuinely every single executive in dining services. And at Bon Appetit, which is like the primary provider of food on campus, they have an exclusive partnership with the school's dining services, and seeing how we can fit in and where we can fill a niche and a gap, and how we can fit into their budget and what differentiates us, and making sure that we fall in line with their nutrition guidelines, that we can fall in line with the way that they, you know, do their budget in terms of meal points. So it was a very intricate and long-winded process, I would definitely say, but it was incredibly rewarding because, as Jessica mentioned, it accumulated in this last semester, and we have a fully running operating partnership now. And I mean, sadly, we only got to operate this new partnership for a few months before the school closed for the semester over spring break. But in those few weeks that we were able to operate, we had tremendous success and way more profits than we could have ever imagined from this partnership. So the moral of the story is that you see an obstacle, a very large one, you know, we could have accepted and said, well, this is our space on the South 40. This is where we're going to stay. And then everything would have been flat from there. But we pushed forward. We were like very tenacious in that approach. We worked with the StEP board. We worked with all the higher ups in the school that could possibly be involved in this whatsoever. And ultimately we got our way. And the reason for that is purely because we convinced people to believe in us, in our mission, and in what we could contribute to the school. So, and it paid off. You know, all the students loved having our candy on other parts of campus, as was obvious by the, you know, financial success that we saw from this partnership already. So in terms of, I would say, obstacles, that was definitely a huge one, and that is very business specific for us, but something very similar could happen to any business on campus. But the point is that this is what happens when you operate a company, and the school allowed us to move past it. And I think that's the key message here, is that it took time and it took dedication, but we were able to figure out a compromise and make it work. So I'd say that's the big one for us.
Those are both great stories. I have a couple of other questions that came in through the chat. Will all businesses be operating in the fall semester given the way classes and other activities are being structured? The answer is yes. I'm working with all of the businesses now to figure out alternate operations and making sure we take all of our safety and health precautions. But I fully expect all of our businesses to be up and running this semester. It's going to look very different, and the businesses are going to have to be creative. As Victoria was just saying, you know, creativity and persistence is going to be key this semester, and making sure that businesses are seeing, you know, the sales that they want to see. But it's all doable, and I'll be working closely with all the businesses to make sure that we're following all of our guidelines, but also giving students the opportunity to tackle this very, very real world challenge. This is something that all small businesses are facing globally. So there is no better experience for a student than learning how to operate a small business during a pandemic. There was another question about, does the advisory board meet with people on an individual basis? And yes, they can absolutely do that. Our individual advisory board members sit down with individual students and businesses on a regular basis. Generally, they can share like best practices and help make connections and help brainstorm through things. We're not going to tell any one business this is exactly how you have to do something for the most part. We do have some operational guidelines and procedures that we do ask businesses to adhere to, but when it comes to general day-to-day operations, you know, we, like Victoria, we didn't tell her, no, you can't go push on dining services. We said, no, we want you to do that. You know, here's how to facilitate that. And that's what we did with Jess, you know, starting that apprentice program. So the advisory board members can talk with students and brainstorm through some of those things as well. Absolutely, it's definitely part of the learning experience, definitely part of the networking opportunity. And like Victoria said, some of our STEP owners and our administrators become very close, and it does become more of a pure relationship. Are there other questions that I or the students or alumni or advisory board member can answer? Is there space on campus for a new business to reside? At the moment, my 8 storefronts are entirely filled, but that can change almost on a semester by semester basis. Leases are for an academic year, but with the way things are right now, there's a possibility that something will open up in January. I can't say for sure right now, obviously, but depending on what happens, we reevaluate the storefront situation every single academic year. And that's why we reissue leases on a yearly basis. So it just depends on what new ideas come in and what definitely needs a storefront and what may not need a storefront. Okay. We do have a little bit more time in case there's additional questions, or if Victoria, Jess, or Chris have anything else that they want to contribute in regards to STEP that maybe we didn't tackle.
I think that the last thing I'd say in regards to, because we were just talking about kind of the relationship between student owners and the board, that I think isn't something that's like brought up as often just because it might be like more touchy, but I think something incredibly important is also the way that people in power, so in this sense I would say the faculty board, respond to pushback sometimes and like constructive criticism. And of course sometimes like you're going to have a disagreement and like, oh well, this is how I want to go about this or something like that, but something that I'm very, very pleased with my time working with STEP is that these faculty advisors do really see you as a peer. And if you have a frank conversation, I mean, the amount of times where I've come into your office, Jessica, and been like, look, this is what I'm thinking, like, hear me out. And just having an honest, equal conversation, and getting frank advice, and also being able to voice your opinions openly and saying, well, this is what I'm thinking might be best for my business. Maybe it doesn't fall in line with this and this and this guideline, like how can we work through this together? And the way that the leadership has responded to these kind of, I would say, more unpleasant conversations is also something that I think is rather unprecedented. That's not always the case. It should be, but it's not always in all situations. So I think that that's one other thing that I think is very important to note about STEP, and the relationships that the student owners are able to have with these faculty advisors, and the faculty board as a whole. Is just that the way that if anything were to ever come up that isn't all, sunshine and rainbows, it's all handled in a way that I think most students would find incredibly professional, efficient, and all around, adequate in making everybody happy and maximizing the situation's utility. So
I think that's a really great point. And I wouldn't call them unpleasant conversations. I'd call them constructive and educational.
Yes.
For sure. No, but it's such a big professional development skill to come in to a group of faculty and staff and say, hey, I have all these ideas. How can I execute on this? Or, hey, I don't agree with this piece of it. How do we work past it? I think all of our students have learned so much from being able to advocate for your business, because that helps teach students to advocate for whatever it is they're working on for themselves, for all sorts of different things. And I think those are such important conversations. And I just see that as part of the educational experience of STEP.
Absolutely.
Jessica, and I'll just add, I think Victoria and Jessica have both mentioned this, but the problem solving, I work in the engineering school, and the cliche for engineers is they solve problems. It's true. But the other, I would say business owners are very much in that line of thinking as well. And I think you've heard some good stories about, hey, we have this new idea. Well, here's a policy that you may need to talk to this person and maybe have a meeting about. I think both Victoria and Jess are good examples of, not just being told no, and then having it be done. Now, there's some things that can't change. I know that can come up too, but I think it's just really impressive. The owners are always thinking about solving those problems. And I think that skill is so valuable to learn anytime in life, but I think especially in college. And I think when you're part of StEP, that's definitely going to be at the top of the list of a skill set you gain.
We truly are an entrepreneur in this program.
That's right.
Definitely. And one thing I want to make clear that I haven't made entirely clear yet is actually this program is open to all of our undergrad students. So this is not for business undergrads. This is not for, entrepreneurship students. This is for all. We have students from all 4 of our undergraduate schools in this program. We have a wide variety of majors in this program. As Victoria mentioned earlier, at one point she was pre-med. I've had several pre-med students. I've had athletes.
Biomedical engineers, I think.
Biomedical engineers, yes. Computer science students. I've got, philosophy students, psych students, so it doesn't matter what your intended major is, your intended school. This program is open to all of our undergrad students, and that's something about the Scandalaria Center that's also unique. Just to plug us a little bit, is that we are open to students of all levels and disciplines. So we serve our students, faculty, staff, and alumni, and that's everything from our incoming undecided first-year student all the way through our MD, PhDs, and our alumni from 20, 30 years out. So doesn't matter what you're working on, we are here to help. And like I said, if it doesn't necessarily fit into STEP, we offer programs and resources that can help, make something a reality. Additional questions from our audience? Okay. Well, again, then I just will go ahead and wrap this up. If anybody on this call today has got any questions about any of this or is interested in any of these businesses in particular, feel free to email me directly. My email is jessica.weldon@woostel.edu. Jess and Victoria kindly put their emails in the chat for anybody who wants to reach out to them and learn more about their experience. And we're happy to help and happy to answer all kinds of questions. So thank you to Victoria, Jess, and Chris for being on the call with me today. I really appreciate it. Thank you to all of our incoming students and families. Welcome to WashU. We know this semester is going to be a little bit different, but we know that working together, we're going to have a great semester anyway. And I'm excited to work with you in one way or another. And someday I will see you all on campus, and I'm going to celebrate and go buy me some chocolate at Berry Sweet and maybe take a ride on a Bears bike. All right. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Have a good night.
Thank you.